How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, make sure to turn on the notifications so you don't miss an episode. We got you guys on the daily on all accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, every single place. We got you guys covered with all the daily updates and anything you guys need to know about this New York Yankees team. And today we're discussing one of the hottest performers to start the 2023 season, former All-Star Gleyber Torres, who may become a current All-Star if he maintains the current pace he's on, because the guy is on fire. One pitch yesterday against one of the best starters in baseball, Shane Bieber, ropes a double to left field, gets on base. Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, all the Aarons are saying a lot of good things about Gleyber Torres, and you love to see it because this is a player who was a prospective trade candidate just a few weeks ago, and now he's becoming a cemented starter who we can't even think about moving because the guy is producing so much offense without him. We're in a really bad spot when DJ LeMahieu needs a day off. He fills that leadoff spot with gusto, and he's been tremendous. So Ryan, before we dive into Gleyber Torres, how he's been performing this year and why he could revive his all-star caliber play and why he could finally make the team once again after a couple of down years and, finding that maturity. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. You mentioned this with Gleyber Torres. We've kind of been talking about his development and kind of what his role would be all offseason, right? I feel like, when we were in the dead of the offseason, it was like every conversation that was had about the Yankees was, what are they doing with Gleyber Torres? So what are they doing in left field? Is Gleyber Torres going to be moved for a left fielder? Is he going to be moved for a pitcher? How do they handle Volpe and Peraza? There are a lot of questions about Gleyber Torres' role, but now he's bounced that question back to the New York Yankees. The question isn't whether Gleyber Torres should play or not. It's, are the Yankees going to keep him around, and if so, how long? And now it doesn't, now the popular move from the offseason, you could have sold a lot of Yankee fans, even me, who I was pretty adamant about not wanting to trade Gleyber unless you got a serious piece back that could help your offense. You could have sold the Yankee fans in the offseason about trading Gleyber. Now you can't. Now you can't do that. Now if you trade Gleyber, it would be wildly unpopular. Now for an offense that, relies a lot on Gleyber Torres, relies a lot on the middle of their lineup, especially since they have some guys down. You don't have Bader in there. Volpe is struggling, and you knew that Volpe was going to struggle. You're relying on a rookie to be your shortstop for now. That's part of relying on a rookie to be a shortstop. There are some growing pains with some guys in the bottom of the lineup. Trevino's a defense-first guy. He's not going to be there for his bat. You knew that Gleyber was going to be a big part of this team, and he stepped up to that role. He's I think he's that 1-0 for 4 game in the win against the Orioles on Sunday. That's like the only time I think he hadn't reached base in a game all year. He just continues to hit, man. He just continues to have really good at-bats. He isn't striking out. He's striking out 7.3% of the time. He's walking 24.4% of the time. He's slugging 710. He just looks excellent at the dish right now. He's hitting plenty of line drives. His approach is, I'd say perfect right now. Everything is just clicking for him. He's going to slump. He's going to have stretches where he's not going to play as well. That's baseball. But this is really looking like it has the makings to be, as you mentioned, that special year for Gleyber Torres, that year that you've always known he's capable of. And he's finally putting it together. You just have to hope that he doesn't go through a slump where he feels like he has to change what he's doing at the plate. If he slumps, it's fine. All that matters is that the process of the at-bats are good. All that matters is that he's swinging at good pitches. He's laying off of bad ones. If he's doing that, there's going to be stretches where he swings and misses too much. There are going to be stretches where, the ball isn't dropping. There are going to be stretches where he swings a little disconnected. That'll happen. But the process at the plate looks good. And that was an issue for him at times last year. In August, he struggled 32% of the time over a stretch and walked just 2% of the time. That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And whether that has to do because, he was reacting to the trade news and he wasn't taking it well or not, you can't just have sudden shifts in approach. You can't suddenly try to do too much. You suddenly can't try to chase out the zone or swing more, or swing less, or whatever it may be. Gleyber Torres is at his best when he's aggressive. Gleyber Torres is at his best when he's letting the game come to him. This is the best version of Gleyber Torres we've seen, I think, as a New York Yankee. I'm counting the year where he hit 38 home runs in this as well. I think he said it himself. This is the best he's ever been. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Look, the reality is simple when it comes to Gleyber Torres. He's 26 years old, including this season. He has 2 years left of control. The Yankees have him locked in a pretty good contract, and he can be their starting second baseman, which gives the freedom for DJ LeMahieu to move around, rotate, take over, and supplement injuries and fatigue and whatnot. And obviously having DJ in the lineup is essential. They did a really good job of getting him involved regularly. He'll be in the lineup today, we imagine. But Gleyber Torres, man, yesterday, the guy was once again tremendous. He had 2 hits and a walk over 3 30 at-bats. Now, is the power necessarily exactly what it was a couple years ago? Yeah, I think he has plenty of power and he's able to hit those home runs, but I think his approach at the plate is what we're seeing evolve. In the past, he would just go for the homer, he'd go for the power, go for the big knock, but now we're seeing him take a much more A-swing approach, and that's what Aaron Judge said. I really want to read you this quote because I do think it's a really, really valuable one. So when it comes to Aaron Judge and what he said about Gleyber Torres, he goes, controlling the zone. He's doing such a good job of when the pitch ends up somewhere in the zone where you can do some damage. He's getting his A swing off. Leading off Monday's game against a top pitcher, first pitch, he's already on second base. I think it's just him staying aggressive, understanding what type of hitter he is, understanding that counts guys are going to come after him. It's been impressive and fun to watch so far this season. So, when you're looking at his approach, he last year was not as aggressive. It felt like he was just taking a lot of pitches. He was trying to find the right one. But now anything he thinks is going to be in the zone, thinks is going to be a strike, he's attacking aggressively, and he's getting good swings off of it. He's not going for, elevated power. He's not going to get it over the fence. He's just simply trying to put the ball in play. And the fact of the matter is Gleyber Torres has such a great swing, really good fundamentals, that when he does make good contact on that baseball, it's usually going in play and is usually going to be an extra base hit or at least a single because of the way he has power. His power, like imagine like IKF with power. IKF has really weak ground balls and it doesn't really leave the infield. Imagine if IKF had Gleyber Torres' power. He'd be hitting him in the gaps. He'd be getting on base extra base hits. He'd be doing a lot of great things. And that's kind of what Gleyber Torres is. He's just a solid contact hitter so far, but he's also making really good quality contact when he does, reach bat to ball. His walk rate to start the season, 24.4%, which is a 7.3% strikeout rate. The guy is not striking out. He's making a lot of really, really good decisions with his swings, and that's really exciting to see. When you look at his barrel percentage, 14.3% barrel rate. He has 4 barrels this season, 39.3% hard hit rate, which is the second highest in his career compared to last season. His launch angle is down to 12.2 degrees compared to 17.5 degrees. So what you're seeing here is essentially he's not trying to get under that ball to get those fly balls, to get those homers. He's just trying to put the ball in play. His max exit velocity, Ryan, the highest it's ever been at 90.9 miles per hour, and he has a max this year of 108.2, which I imagine we'll see it creep up a little bit as the season goes on. But that exit velocity is up, the barrels are up, the launch angle is down, so he's getting into play more. He's hitting line drives into the outfield. You love to see all this stuff from him, but do you think this is a sign of evolvement? He's evolving into a player that's not relying on home runs anymore, but he's actually able to put it in play and generate a lot of opportunities on the base pass, and then he leads the team with 5 stolen bases too. So you're seeing he's doing a lot of things right, and everything's kind of coming together as he's changing his hitting approach.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, you just want Gleyber Torres to feel confident at the plate. You feel like he's someone who relies a lot on that. A lot of people had the, takes over the offseason that Gleyber is a lazy player, that he doesn't work hard or whatever. I would point to the results on the field, right? One of the guys who have been taking the biggest advantage of the new stolen base rules is Gleyber Torres. That's not being lazy. You have to be, you have to be aggressive on the base paths. You have to work on your conditioning. You have to be a very smart player. You have to have a high baseball IQ. I think Gleyber has a really underrated baseball IQ. There are certain plays, yes, that don't look great, but I feel like every player kind of has that, right? Like every player just has those plays where they're like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? That's baseball. If you play baseball, you're going to make mental errors, right? I think, I've played baseball. I think most people watching this have played a sport of some sort. That one play you made, you're like, man, what was I thinking on this? It's part of life. You're asked to make quick decisions. You're going to just completely screw it up at times, right? But this is a guy who's, stole double-digit bases with below average speed multiple times in his career, by the way. We've seen him just make brilliant base running decisions, right? He stole third against the Phillies. That right there, stealing third base is hard on its own. He's not a fast guy, and it's JT Realmuto behind the dish. JT Realmuto is a really damn good defensive catcher, guys. One of the quickest pop times in the game. Good arm, elite defensive catcher. If he keeps this up, he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? And he stole third off him. Why? Because he knows how to get good jumps. He knows how to get good reads. That comes with part of the game. We know he's a smart player. We know he's able to get the most out of his physical tools. Now it's just a matter of, as you mentioned, line drives, gap-to-gap approach, keeping him, staying within himself, doing the things he does correctly, doing the things that made him a highly talented prospect. Guys, he's a year removed from a year where, he had a 115 WRC plus, and he felt like it could have been better, right? This year, I I'm not saying he's going to go out and win the MVP or anything like that. But let's look at the projections. Everything has him projected for an above 120 WRC plus. That would be a really damn good year for your second baseman, right? Not a lot of second basemen get there. Not a lot of second basemen get to that number. Universally projected to hit over 20 home runs as well. Again, not a lot of second basemen reach that mark, right? 20 plus home runs, 120 WRC plus, get me to around a 330 OBP. Man, that's going to be a really nice 5-hitter for this team. And as guys like Volpe take leaps in the lineup, as guys like Bader come back, you know what you're getting from Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton. Cabrera, has kind of been hot and cold. You feel like that'll stabilize a little bit. Same thing with LeMahieu, kind of a hot and cold situation. Hitting the ball hard, but a lot of strikeouts. You feel like that's going to normalize, right? When these guys start all clicking, when you get into the postseason, it's going to be nice to have a guy like Gleyber who can be the 5-hitter, who can kind of clean up what the top of the lineup can't get done. It feels like you just have an extra weapon in this offense, and that's all because of Gleyber Torres and his breakout year so far.
That's absolutely right. And that's the thing. When they start clicking as a unit, a lot of these guys are clicking. Rizzo's performing pretty well. Judge has been excellent, obviously. Gleyber's been great. DJ LeMahieu's elevated his numbers significantly. Stanton's been on fire lately. A lot of these guys are clicking. Now, it's the bottom half of the order, which I want to discuss partially here, that has been a little bit of a liability. Oswaldo Cabrera, when he's there, he's been pretty solid. His on-base rate, it's been fluctuating, but he's been getting on base via singles and whatnot, so he's been making some decent contact. He looks a lot more comfortable the last couple of weeks here, or rather, not even weeks, just last couple of games. But I'll ask you this. What kind of impact do you think that Harrison Bader is going to have when he returns? And when Anthony Volpe starts to hit, he's making good contact. Yesterday, he had a couple of balls that he smacked into the outfield that were just unfortunately right at outfielders or right at players. But he made some good contact, and I was pretty impressed with that variable there. But when Anthony Volpe starts to kind of come around, starts hitting a little bit better, they have Oswaldo Cabrera in the lineup every day, and Harrison Bader returns, do you think the bottom half of this order is going to see a significant increase? Do you think that this entire batting order is going to be very well-rounded? Or do you think it's going to be, kind of like inconsistencies, Franchi Cordero's coming in, they're going to be kind of realigning things all the time like they have been in the last couple games?
I think, okay, so 2 points. Number one, the Yankees so far on the season in terms of like WRC plus are kind of where they were last year. And last year they were at a 115. This year they're 117. Small sample size, so I'm not going to draw conclusions obviously on that. I'm not going to victory lap about the Yankees lineup in April. But as you mentioned, the bottom of the lineup's been inconsistent, but more importantly, they haven't hit, right? I believe I saw a stat. They're not hitting. They are not doing very, very well. A lot of that's because Volpe hasn't hit well. And I understand he's been consistently in the bottom of the lineup, so that makes sense. But one thing that you mentioned is the changing of the lineup a lot. Is that going to still be a thing? I still think it will be. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. I genuinely just think the Yankees are going to have to always change their lineup to get everyone involved. Not only is Bader coming back, and not only is Cordero probably still going to stick around if he keeps hitting like this. Calhoun had a double yesterday, and I thought he had another good at bat. He hit a line drive right at someone. If he hits right and he plays at like a 105 WRC plus, you're probably not going to just rush to DFA him, right? Josh Donaldson is also supposed to be back, I think about the next week or so, right? Because it's a 10-day IL stint. So I imagine that's around the timetable for his return. You imagine the Yankees are going to want to see what they have in Josh Donaldson, and that's the right decision. The Yankees have to know what they have in Josh Donaldson. You can't just DFA a guy on April 11th. Again, like I don't really believe in Josh Donaldson, but you can't, especially after that spring training. If we're going to let spring training decide who wins the shortstop job, you should let it at least somewhat influence how long of a leash you're going to give a player. Now, if Josh Johnson has an 80 WRC plus and it's May 10th, we can start having a DFA conversation. But for now, at least, they're going to give him playing time. So you're going to have to get creative, right? How does LeMahieu fit into the lineup? We talked about Torres playing so well. LeMahieu, Donaldson, and Torres and Volpe do not all fit in the same lineup unless you're putting one of them at DH. And then that means that you have to stand in the outfield, Judge in center field or Judge in left field, and Bader in center field. So no Cabrera. So you're going to have to do a lot of things to get different guys involved in the lineup. But I think all the players that we're mentioning that are coming back should either A, give you around league average production, or B, have a pretty high ceiling. Like Bader's ceiling isn't that low. Donaldson obviously has a higher ceiling as a guy who's a year removed from having like a 120 WRC plus, right? So you feel like when you get these guys back, the bottom of your lineup looks just a little more complete. It looks a little less kind of like put together, slapped together, glued together. And then guys like Cordero can be used specifically in games where he's in good situations. Against a pitcher maybe with not a great four-seam fastball or not great command, and he's right-handed. Like a guy like Hunter Gaddis today, I think is a good matchup for Franchi Cordero. Young pitcher, not necessarily the best command in the world, not blow-by stuff. Should be a good matchup for Cordero. I think that's a good opportunity opportunity to get him in the lineup, right? But when you have Bader in there, you don't have to play Cordero against like a lefty, right? You don't have to talk about whether Cordero should come out of a game when a lefty's coming in. You just have Harrison Bader there who you feel like can hit both sides of the both arms pretty well. So to kind of wrap up my point here, the guys returning aren't elite hitters. They're not world beaters or anything of the sort, but they just give you more options, and having more options opens up more opportunity for positive variance. We have certain guys having good years or certain guys, overperforming for a little bit. You just need as much depth as possible. That's how I feel about the bullpen. It's how I feel about this position player core. Not a lot of elite players. You have your Aaron Judge, you have your Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres has been playing really well, but you have a lot of major league caliber players, and that's kind of their strength right now.
Absolutely. So we'll see how the Yankees kind of navigate this and what they do when they get a little bit healthier. But Gleyber Torres, nonetheless, has been extremely great for this team, and we love him right now. Hopefully he can maintain this pace and continue to show us that he deserves to be on this team as a long-term solution, and prove to Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman that he deserves to be on this team. He wants to be here, and ultimately, we want Yankees that want to be here. We want players that want to be donning the pinstripes and performing well in the Bronx, because it's not for everybody. You have to have serious mental fortitude to be a Yankee, and Gleyber Torres has brushed off a lot of the criticism, and he's rising to the occasion when a lot of people have written him off. So I really think that's a valuable attribute. I think that that's something that should be looked at as a catalyst for success, and I think that he has the mental traits and the intangibles to be a really nice player here for a very long time, and he's only 26 years old. So I think, at the very least, hold him in for the rest of this year. Yeah, yes, you could trade him for value right now, but the reality is, like, he's a top 10 second baseman. He's performing admirably on offense, and there's no reason to move him right now. At the very most, maybe move him at the deadline and get a big haul in return if he's like absolutely killing it. But at the same time, maybe he's your catalyst in the playoffs, and you don't want to give away a player like that. So we'll see what the Yankees do. For now, I think he's cemented his spot on this team, and the narratives and the kind of rumors of him being traded have quieted down, which is nice to see. But as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple if you are so willing, and enjoy this episode. We appreciate all the love as always. Enjoy the game today, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.